Chris Pyke. Chris is the, I guess you didn't give me a title. Okay. So he's the Vice President of Research for USGBC, and we'll be taking it the rest of the way. Thank you all. Enjoy it.
Oh my, wow, I think that was mostly about exercise, right? That's what I think Angela's going to take us into that in a second. All right, so, well, thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for navigating the security process where I understand some of our friends remain, and so hopefully they'll get themselves out of Hawk before too long. So I have some things that I must do and some things that I want to do, and so let me start with the things I want to do before I get to things I must do. So so the first thing is I want to build off where Charles. So okay, Chris Pyke, U.S. Green Building Council. Yes, that's me. And so it's great to have all of you here. So the part that I want to build off with Charles is one of the reasons I think that HiBR and our larger group has had such sustained, has had such growth over the last year, is that to some degree our ship is coming in. Our ship is not in yet, but our ship is coming in. And this is a fight that Charles and Charlene and Kenny and others and many of you in this room have been propelling for over a decade, or maybe 2 decades, or maybe a little longer, depending on how you see it. The issue of health, the issue of wellness, the issue of occupant experience is moving to the center of how we think about the built environment. And it is not yet at the center, but it is taken a huge leap to the center of our conversation. And over the next couple of years, I have no doubt, it will be the center of the conversation about how we build, design, operate our built environments at scale. And there are a number of reasons that we're going to talk about why that is. There are a bunch of things that have to do with technology, that have to do with value, that have to do with economics that are driving that change. So there is no doubt that that change is happening. There's no doubt that that interest in HiBR is a reflection of that, as well as what's going on at Google. So folks in this room, we're here partially because Google has an interest in that topic, that we're grateful for their interest and their support that comes along with it. We're in this room partially because folks like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation have an interest in this topic and are drawing a straight line between building, design, planning, and operation and health, wellness, and experience. And so that's important. However, as our kind of day, our ship has come in, we also realize we have a bit of a responsibility. We have a bit of a gap that we are dealing with. We have a pretty big gap between our intentions and our values regarding health and the built environment and the outcomes we see on the ground. We know that our buildings can make us healthy, satisfied, relaxed, invigorated, energized, connected, but we also know, anybody who's been to Chicago Midway, that our buildings can make us disoriented, confused, sick. They're obesogenic, asthmagenic, a variety of genics that we, and a bunch of other things. So we have a choice. Our built environments do not reflect our expressed values regarding health, wellness, and experience. That is a choice that we collectively can change, and we have an opportunity to change it, an unprecedented opportunity to change it. And so one of our decisions in doing this that I think is particularly germane to this group, and I love the way of expressing this group today as a big breakout session, because I think that's what it is. There are really great minds in this room, and we're going to have the pleasure of being together today to explore those minds. I think one of the decisions we in the green building space face is, does health in the built environment, is this a quality? Are we going to serve this up as something from the homeopathic remedy aisle? Is this going to be in the health food aisle of the grocery store? Or is this going to be something we get from the pharmacy? Is it going to be something that is rooted in evidence, that is that we have, that is a scientific pursuit? Or is it going to be there with the zinc lozenges and the vitamin C supplements? And that's a decision we have on us. Right now, it can go either way. And you know what I'm talking about. It can go either way. And so over the next couple of years, we are going to decide, is health, wellness, and experience in the built environment going to be evidence-based, data-driven, empiric, iterative with regard to data and experimentation and hypothesis, or is it going to be a good thing that we just sort of pat each other on the head and say, ah, that's great? And actually, you know, frankly, from a society perspective, we can make it work either way. We can make it work. But I think that those of us in this room have a preference on one side or the other, and it's up to us to live that preference in the next couple of years. And so I hope these meetings that Charles has been so instrumental in shepherding along with our partners over the last couple of years, this is part of that conversation about making a choice. Which way is it going to go? So, okay. So today, it's my pleasure, actually, at this point, to shift gears. Actually, so, sorry. That was the stuff I wanted to say. But actually, Dave Marcus is shooting daggers at me somewhere, saying that I am now supposed to cover the things I'm supposed to say. All right, so let me clear away the things I have to say, and then we'll get to Bryan. So, which I know is what you really want to hear. So, first off, many of you have not yet experienced something called ROAR. But by the end of the day today, you will experience something called ROAR. So this is the purpose behind these little index cards that we have asked you to pick up. If you're thinking, what index cards? Aha, you are the person I'm talking to. So on the reception out there are a bunch of index cards. Our purpose, we're doing a little exercise at the end of the day to basically have you share some of your observations about the most impactful things you have heard over the course of the day. The goal of giving you an index card is because I know that many of you have many great things to say, is to constrain yourself, to focus on just one great thing you heard during the day, one impactful thing you heard, and to put it on that index card to contain your greatness to merely the space on top of that index card. So please do, so I will come back to this point during the day, but it is sufficient right now to listen for great impactful things that catch your attention, things that catch your mind, put them on that index card and save it for later, and I will come back to you over the course of the day. So again, focus your brilliance on that. So second one, we will have, if you are wondering, we're going to be in this big plenary format almost the entire day, and you're wondering, when am I going to have these small networking conversations? You will have them at lunch. And so we have, during lunch, we have set up affinity tables for issues such as the future of HiBR and a number of other topics. So if you can seek out these topical things, I'll introduce more of what they are when we break for lunch. There are also blank affinity tables for those of you who have not yet developed an affinity, but will do so in the next hour and a half or two. There are places for your conversations as well. So I think... Okay, because he's nodding. So this is David Marcus, by the way. He's a big part of the reason we're actually here. And when he nods and smiles, that means I have not screwed up yet. Okay, so with that, I have actually, this is what you all are waiting for. I have the pleasure of introducing Bryan Sivak, and who is going to get us started today with some remarks. And this is actually a real pleasure because there's a couple of different things here. So Bryan is the Chief Technology Officer for Health and Human Services. He's been in this role since 2012. He comes to this role with experience as the Chief Innovation Officer for the state of Maryland and the District of Columbia, and a body of experience in the private sector. And so I want to share, so there's a lot of great things to say about Bryan's leadership, but I want to call out two things. One is I really started to understand some of the great things Bryan was doing when he got together with some of his incredibly cool friends at the Quantified Self Symposium last year in San Diego, and started to realize that that is a group of people who are literally changing the world by bringing data from the real world into our experiences. So if you're not familiar with, some of you may not be familiar with the Quantified Self movement, but Bryan and his cadre are central to that. The second thing I want to put a piece of aspiration. While the health, wellness, and experience community in the built environment is relatively small, one of the transformational things in health over the last several years has been the health data palooza movement. And a couple of months ago, Bryan was giving a keynote remark in front of Health Data Palooza where thousands of people stood up and cheered, standing ovation, for Secretary Sebelius at the time. And given all the things that Secretary Sebelius has gone through or went through in her term at HHS, I think getting a standing ovation from a bunch of data geeks is really telling. It's really telling because the idea that opening up data and making it an integral part, making data itself, data exploration and understanding what's happening in the real world through an open data movement, is the heart of the Data Palooza enterprise. And Bryan has this great selfie of him with thousands of people in the background basically cheering health data. That's something to aspire to. We don't have anything that cool yet. And some of you were at our own little Data Palooza at Greenbuild a couple of weeks ago. We're getting there. We're getting there. But we're not that cool yet. Okay, so with that, I'll get out of the way. I'll introduce Bryan, and I'll come back and we'll have some Q&A.